So last night the Sixers played the Hawks in Game 7 of the conference semi-finals, and the Sixers lost in a performance that I would say, to the least, is pretty embarrassing when you look at the fact that the Sixers were favoured by most people to win the game. And along with that, when you look at mainly the performance of Ben SImmons, I think that there is something going on there, and he has performed at an extremely poor rate, to be fair, throughout these whole playoffs. And for a lot of people in Philadelphia and a lot of the fans, this was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of performance for Simmons and the way that he plays and his personality as a person. I think it has finally rubbed people the wrong way in terms of his reluctance to shoot jump shots and his reluctance to be a perimeter threat, which has ruined the Sixers game plan in terms of spacing, and the fact that when the paint is clogged, it does limit the amount that someone like Joe can do, with the fact that sometimes he does have to move to the perimeter. And you can see it in the statistics when you look at the fact that throughout this postseason, Ben SImmons shot 32.4% from the free throw line, which is the worst in NBA history, worse than the likes of Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal and Ben Wallace. And with something like that, you could see that it affected his reluctance to get to the rim. When you look at one of the things that is the most crazy thing I've ever seen for a professional basketball player was him passing to Thibault when he had that wide open dunk. And it's something where it just needs to be addressed by both the team and himself. And that interview as well, I think it was something that really rubbed myself the wrong way, when he said that he is who he is and this is just who he is. And I think that as a basketball player, the most important thing for you to have is self-reflection and the ability to analyze yourself as a player and see that there are places that you do need to improve on and do need to get better as a player. And along with that, you see in the career games that Ben SImmons has played in the playoffs, he's only made 5 shots outside of 10 feet from the basket, which is something that once again does show his reluctance to become a perimeter threat and has ruined for the most part his adjustments and the success that the team makes. And looking at his performance through the games that we had during this series, in game 1 he had 17 points, in game 2 he had 4 points, in game 3 he had 18 points, in game 4 he had 11 points, in game 5 he had 8 points, in game 6 he had 6 points, and in game 7 he had 5 points. And that is just embarrassing as a player who's supposed to be the second option, who's a max player, a player who said that he was supposed to be defensive player of the year, and a player who's seen as one of the best in the league or the next LeBron. And you see, while he has those points, it gets even more worse in the fourth quarter, where he's just a complete statue for the fact that people are gonna hack a Ben him and he just doesn't make the free throws. With the fact that throughout the whole series, only in game 1 he made two field goals, and in game 3 he made 1 field goal. But other than that, he hasn't even taken a shot through game 2 to game 4, 5, 6 and 7. And that is just something that is ridiculously embarrassing, and it's something that needs to be addressed. So I mean, the problem is that I think that the Sixers should give Ben SImmons an ultimate decision to make and give him an ultimatum where they simply state, either you have to next season either play at the 4 and play as a stretch 4 and consistently make corner threes or make threes or shoot perimeter shots, or you will be traded, for the fact that when Simmons does play as the point guard of the team, it simply isn't successful, for the fact that he isn't a perimeter threat, and it just limits all the things that they can do as a team. And I mean, this Ben SImmons problem, at first it wasn't a problem that people seriously addressed, as they felt that it was something where they could make it work and they could do something about it. But now that the fact that they had a series like this and Ben SImmons was ridiculously exposed, is something that people now have to address more seriously. And I think a lot of people are now sick and tired of, yeah, he'll shoot eventually, don't worry, he'll be the next LeBron James, don't worry, he's good enough as it is, they can still win a championship. And I think that a lot of people's eyes have finally been waking up to what the reality of his status is as a player and how limiting it is. And it's not really, I don't really like to call players bums or frauds or that sort of thing, but it's hard to give Ben Simmons the credit that he supposedly deserves when things like this happen. And you even look at things like his summer league highlights or his highlights as a rookie, and you see that in some parts he has regressed in terms of him being less aggressive as a rim runner, him being less aggressive as taking mid-range shots, and just him being less aggressive, being more ambidextrous. And shout out to Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer, who's been saying this for years. He mentioned that it might be the fact that Ben Simmons is shooting with the wrong hand. So if it is an issue like that, then the Sixers, if they aren't going to trade him, which they most likely should at this point, should just force him to use the other hand with the help of a shooting coach and a sports psychologist. From Kevin O'Connor, Ben Simmons took 95 shots in the playoffs. He tried 67 shots using his right hand, 19 shots using his both hands, and 9 shots using his left hand. And in his career, over 70% of his shots are used with his right hand. And this is just easy to see that while he does see himself as an ambidextrous player, maybe he just does need to start shooting with his right hand and being more aggressive with it. But that's just my opinion. I just wanted to get this off my chest because as a Sixers fan it was a bit annoying, and I think that you can look at the Sixers subreddit and NBA Twitter and just everyone's just tired of it. So Ben Simmons just needs to step up a bit and recognize what he's doing, because what he's doing right now isn't working and is limited everyone and just is pretty shit.